On one foot while blindfolded across a bed of hot coals saved Blue Trails range. So please help me welcome attorney, CCDL attorney by the way, Frank Fishbein.
Thank you to the CCDL for giving me the opportunity to address you today. A husband and wife had been arguing all night, and as bedtime approached, neither was speaking to the other. In the past, it was not unusual for them to continue this war of silence for 2 or 3 days. However, on this occasion, the man was very concerned. He needed to be awake at 4:30 the next morning to catch an important flight, and being a heavy sleeper, he normally relied upon his wife to wake him for these trips. Cleverly, so he thought, while his wife was in the bathroom prior to bed, he wrote on a piece of paper, "Please, wake me at 4:30 a.m. I have an important flight to catch." He put the note on his wife's pillow and then turned over and went to sleep. The man awoke the next morning and looked at the clock. It was 8 a.m. Enraged that he'd missed his flight, he was about to go and search for his errant wife and give her a piece of his mind when he spotted a handwritten note on his nightstand. It said, "It's 4:30 a.m. Get up." I suppose that in retrospect there were 2 things the man could have done differently. He could have patched things up with his wife before he went to sleep, or he could have not chosen to go to sleep at all. My message to you today is don't go to sleep at all. During the next year there will be candidates for political office who will ask for your support. They will ask you for money and they will ask you for their vote, for your vote. Please do your due diligence and ask them this question. Do you propose to offer any legislation that affects gun ownership in Connecticut? Do not let them simply tell you that they believe in the Second Amendment. Even Barack Obama and Eric Holder will tell you that they believe in the Second Amendment. In fact, currently in Connecticut, there is an individual trying to be the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate. This candidate previously served 21 years in the Congress. While he too will tell you that he believes in the Second Amendment, he is not a friend to gun owners. In 2004, when the Clinton assault weapon ban expired, this candidate expressed disappointment that it was going away. And he stated, "There will be, without question, horrific crime committed without an assault weapon ban, and every member of Congress will have to ask where they are on this issue." Just 4 years ago, when he was still in Congress, this candidate co-sponsored H.R. 6257, the assault weapon reauthorization ban, including a large magazine ban. Just last month, I personally asked this individual about his co-sponsoring of this bill. His response was, "I don't remember." It was just 2008. It wasn't decades ago. This candidate was also sponsored by the Brady campaign for his gun control measures. There are pretenders all around. Please don't go to sleep at all. I have said many times that gun control laws only prevent law-abiding people from defending themselves. Case in point, last year there was a proposal presented to the Public Safety Committee in this building for us to adopt the Castle Doctrine, giving those homeowners the greater ability to defend themselves. This effort failed, basically because the Chiefs of Police Association argued that they break down the doors of people and don't want to get shot. I asked, when was the last time that a gun control law prevented a criminal from shooting at the police? It doesn't happen. What a far cry it is from post-Revolutionary War Connecticut, when in 1784 Dr. Richard Price, who was a popular British philosopher, wrote, "God forbid that standing armies should ever find an establishment in America. No wise people will trust their defense out of their own hands, or consent to hold their rights at the mercy of armed slaves. Free states ought to be bodies of armed citizens, and always ready to turn out when properly called upon to execute the laws, to quell riots, and to keep peace. Such are the citizens of America. Thank you. In 1784, Connecticut, that very same year, citizens of Connecticut were required to be armed, to pursue felons when necessary. This applied to those that were in a militia as well as every household, every head of household. Far different from our current legislature's position on the Castle Doctrine, where they don't want to give us the right to protect ourselves in our own home. There are gun grabbers all around. Please don't go to sleep at all. Over the past few years, there's been much discussion about the Second Amendment and what it means. What I want to tell you today is what it doesn't mean. The Second Amendment doesn't mean that the only guns that you can possess are the ones that are made for hunting. The Second Amendment doesn't mean that perpetrators get more rights than victims. The Second Amendment doesn't mean that just because you legally carry a handgun with a round in the chamber that you are a criminal. The Second Amendment doesn't mean that the government gets the good guns and the citizens get the rejects. Far from it. In closing, I just want to tell you a brief story. Recently, I was contacted by a friend of mine from high school that I hadn't seen in 20 or so years. We arranged to meet for lunch. Shortly after I got to the restaurant, my old friend drove up in his bright yellow Chevrolet Corvette. I stood there and admired it briefly. He beamed and said, "Yep, she's my baby. She's got a 6.2-liter, 430-horsepower V8 engine, can go from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. And if you really want a thrill, it'll go 200 miles an hour." I grinned and nodded knowingly, and we entered the restaurant. During the meal, we were catching up on old times, and the subject of crime came up. My old friend made some offhand comment about gun control. To his surprise, I told him that just about every day I carry a handgun for personal protection. I told him about our state constitution, which says that every citizen has a right to bear arms in defense of himself and the state, and that I have many guns at home, including those that some people refer to as assault weapons. I told him about the large capacity magazines and the killing power that these firearms possess. My old friend finally blurted out, "Please, Craig, tell me why anybody in 2012 America, aside of course from the police or military, need a semi-automatic rifle with an ACOG scope and a 30-round magazine?" Without missing a step, I looked my old friend in the eye and said, "Because of the Second Amendment, and by the way, in 2012 America, why would anybody need a car that goes 200 miles an hour?" To that, his jaw just dropped and he had no reply. You see, in everyday life, we are confronted with unfair positions on guns. We are confronted with naive prejudices against guns. We are forced to deal with politicians on both sides of the aisle who propose laws that prevent our ability to legally protect ourselves. There are wolves at your door. Please, don't go to sleep at all. Thank you, and God bless America.